So in the weather like this, where it's really cold and snow, it's nice to be able to preheat Tesla, defrost it. And most EVs support it nicely. You just click a button in the app. Tesla has shortcuts, you can use external apps, and you can say, hey, Tesla, please just defrost. But what if you forget? And sometimes you do forget. So in my case, sometimes I have plans and I know exactly when I'm leaving and where I need to leave the house. For example, I live on the island. If I buy a ferry ticket and add it to my calendar when the ferry is leaving, I know that exactly 1 hour before the ferry leaves, I should start preconditioning. To run this kind of automations, you will need a HomeBridge system. And HomeBridge is basically a bridge between a home app from iPhone and other accessories that are not supported. In my case, I had it already installed because I have air conditioning and some other services, hardware in my house that I wanted to have available in the home app, but they were not working directly with home app. A HomeBridge is a solution that will imitate being a home enabled hardware, and it will bridge the gap, right? And fortunately, it supports a bunch of plugins, so you can even HomeBridge a Tesla into your home app. To run a HomeBridge, you will need some computer. In my case, I had this Raspberry Pi, I think it was version 4 in a nice case, so you cannot hear the sounds of the fans. So assuming you have a HomeBridge installed and system is running on your home, let's switch to set up a calendars. In my case, I have 2 calendars. If I go to the week mode, so I have ferries and I have preconditioned Tesla. And so for the ferries, it's for all the events where I'm getting a tickets from the ferry company. And if I leave the island, kui vastu to Virtsu, then I want to start preconditioning 1.5 hours beforehand, because it takes me around 50-55 minutes to get to the ferry, plus some safe window of 10 minutes, and I want more or less 20 minutes of precondition, 1.5. But I only want to precondition when I'm going out of the island, so kui vastu Virtsu direction. If I'm coming back in 2 days, I don't want to precondition 1.5 hours beforehand, because that means I'm probably on the road already. So this calendar needs a filter based on the name. On the other hand, the calendar for preconditioned Tesla, I want it to run 20 minutes before. So in 4 minutes, the calendar, the event should start preconditioning. And here, this calendar I use just to add bunch of events when I know that I'm leaving. And so if I have to leave 11:30 to go to the gym, I want precondition for 20 minutes beforehand. While waiting for the preconditioning to start, I can show you how the end setup will look like. You will have a Tesla switches. I put it in my garage room, and I enabled in the automation system only few switches, climate, sentry mode, and defrost. Tesla connection is basically showing us if the Tesla is connected to the home system properly. So I can turn on defrost, sentry, or climate manually, but I don't want manually. I want it to react to the calendar events. And so the other plugin is being shown as sensors, and I will describe it in a moment. But basically these sensors, when they're open, you can configure the automation what to do. So if you go to the automation, and you can see I have 2 automations for the garage sensors enabled. So when the garage kui vastu ferry opens, and then turn the climate on, and the second automation is basically the same. So when the garage when the sensor for preconditioned Tesla calendar opens, turn the climate on. And the calendars, the offsets, this 20 minutes before, 1.5 hours before, is configured in the HomeBridge. So in the HomeBridge app, I have multiple plugins, but the ones interesting as is HomeBridge calendar and HomeBridge Tesla. In case of HomeBridge Tesla, basically what I showed you enables this kind of switches for the Tesla. It has much more functionality. You can have turn on the charger or the starter and different switches. I'm not interested in that, so I skipped it. There is a nice UX. You can just click switches to configure it. One thing that you will need is a proper refresh tokens, and in my case I have an app called Out for Tesla for macOS, and I highly recommend it. Just shows you the refresh token you can put into the settings of the app. The second
plugin is what made this contact sensor just open. And you can see the sensor opened and precondition Tesla is open, and then the Tesla climate became on, and so Tesla is preconditioning now. That's what we want exactly. So 20 minutes before this calendar event went on, the car will be ready for me in 20 minutes, in 11:30, that I can go to the gym in warm car. So if we switch back to the HomeBridge calendar and how you configure it, I will show you in my case. In the HomeBridge calendar, unfortunately, there is not a nice JSON. You need to use JSON config. But basically what you do, you set a list of calendars, and if you use one calendar like precondition Tesla, it's pretty easy. You just set your offset. And the most important stuff is this URL. Both Google, Outlook, and majority of calendar providers, I think Apple included, provide you with share this calendar publicly link. So this link will enable the plugin to read your calendar, and polling interval just says read it every 1 minute and see if something changed, if there's new event. I think 5 minutes is also fine. I set it for 1. So this calendar will read from this URL, in my case fastmail.com, and offset -20M means 20 minutes before any event starts, or enable the sensor, the switch. You can see if we go back to the sensors, the switch for this preconditioned Tesla calendar is open, and that's how we enable the automation. But what if we want to have name filtering? As I showed you for Kuivastu, I don't want to, for the calendar with ferries, I don't want to enable automations all the time. So you just create calendar as I described, you set your offset, but then you can set the sensor list. And this will create another sensor that will be only open if the event starts with Kuivastu. So in case of my ferries, there will be 2 sensors, events in ferries. So that's all the events, but there will be second sensor, Kuivastu ferry, that will only enable if the event starts with this name, which works perfectly in my case because this sensor I just ignore, and I created 2 automations for both of these sensors, and everything is working, and Tesla is preconditioning nicely. Switching my camera to my MacBook, I wanted to show you my screen. This is a screen recording from my iPhone. It's a live recording, and you can see the climate indeed is on because the sensor was open and the Tesla climate was turned on. If I click it off, it will take a few seconds to restart, but you see it was pretty fast, and that was for the app to react, not even the car. So it has to go to the car and then to the app, so you know it's off. And you can turn on the defrost the same way, and the defrost turns on together with the climate. That's how the Tesla works. So everything works perfectly, and you can control your Tesla only and only from here, and you can enable automations. You can enable, when someone arrives at home, turn on the defroster. I'm not sure, maybe you have this reason, maybe you have a sensor. If someone goes into the garage, start it on, whatever your needs are. I needed a calendar, and that's how I get calendar to work.